Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's the CJ. Welcome back to the first official update of 2025 on the Be Easy Reef. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. This is going to be episode 42 of an ongoing series documenting the journey of this tank over the last 2 years. That's right, this tank has been running for 2 years, guys. Time flies, right? So much has happened, but we're going to keep chugging along, going to keep persevering, and keep working on finding that stability in life and in this reef tank. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this update. So for those of you all wondering what kind of video this is going to be, this is not a sponsored or equipment video. This is going to be a pure reef update, focusing on kind of what's going on to revitalize the Be Easy Reef and to start doing the first steps for the new master plan for this system. That's right. Whenever you hear master plan, you know CJ serious, because that means we have an idea and we have to see it through. We got to document it and we got to share the results. So first things first, getting some much needed maintenance done. I haven't had my hands in the system for over 2 months. Crazy at work, 55, 60 hours a week here lately. And I really just haven't had time. I wanted to, but this is the first time we've really had a chance to properly clean the rocks, siphon the sand. You know, for those that were wondering, this is the first time I've done this in probably 8 months or so, maybe longer, due to, having a very vigorous janitor crew. Unfortunately, my sleeper gobies, my sand sifting fish have perished, and I have nothing in the tank taking care of the sand bed, which we're going to have to remedy here in the near future. So also, it's going to be the first time in that same time window that I've done a major water change. I have been relying on the Neptune dose to provide, the daily auto water changes, but I think there's nothing that can replace a nice 50% water change and just kind of refreshing the water in the system, removing anything that's bad, replacing it with the good, just the normal stuff that a water change will do. And that's pretty much what we're going to do. Now, as I noticed this, back wall, definitely we're going to get to that here in a moment. But before we do, I'm going to run a few different experiments. Now, for those that remember this tank when I first started it, I planted multiple frag plugs up here with pallies and zoanthids, and I had the idea to reharvest and remount them different places. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. Gloves definitely are essential if you're new to the hobby. Use gloves. These things are highly toxic. Polytoxin is definitely not something you want, in any cuts, any skin on your skin, or you don't want to ingest it, have it go in your eyes. So I definitely use protection. No glove, no love in the Be Easy Reef. But we was able to find the original frag plug for the Sunny D's that I added up top, and just like that, now we have a new thing that we can mount somewhere else in the tank. So another mission was going to be to relocate 1 or 2 of the rose bubble tip anemones in the system. Now, I could not get these guys off the rock with the tank full, but I figured if I drain the tank and let gravity kind of, let these things hang from underneath the overhang, I may be able to kind of pry one off. And I was luckily able to accomplish this. Now, I had to be very, very careful. You don't want to damage the foot or tear the flesh. Once you kind of get it to kind of start letting go, I found that once they're outside of water, they don't really want to hold on as much, or they kind of give up. So luckily we was able to get one off. This is the best angle I could find as far as the camera outside the tank. Sorry it's a little blurry, but this was definitely something interesting. I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but I had to record it just in case it did. And after a little bit of finagling and a little bit of prying, I was able to finally get the anemone off. And this is pretty much what it looks like. So for those wondering, this is what a rose bubble tip anemone looks like outside of water. Definitely very slimy. Also not something you want to get on your hands. For those who don't use gloves in your tanks, more power to you. I'm not going to be one of those people. And the foot, as you can tell, still intact. We didn't really do too much damage to it. So we're going to get this guy relocated and hopefully to a new place in the Be Easy Reef to help kind of spread some of that color. So once we got all the fragging done, we got all the the cleaning done in the tank, the last bit of work is going to be a razor blade and getting the core line off the back of the tank. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and get this thing filled back up. So that's pretty much concludes the maintenance on the Be Easy Reef. As you guys can tell, a video doesn't really show the amount of work. This is probably a couple hours worth of work, but applying a little bit of Editing magic always makes it look easier than it is. But as far as refilling the tank, I'm still using the Be Easy Closet Water Change Station, whatever you want to call it. I got about 25 gallons of salt water mixed up. This is also my reservoir for my auto water changes. But in the event of a large water change like today, I can just turn the valves on my manifold and push all this water into the main display sump and pump it right back into the tank. So Aquaforest Reef Salt's what I've been using the last year and a half or so. Mixes very quickly, it's consistent, and this is pretty much what I'm going to continue using on the Be Easy Reef. So stage 2 is going to be servicing the pumps. These things have not been touched in I don't know how long. The gyro was pretty much 100% clogged. So I removed the MP40 wet sides, threw them in the bucket, and let the gyro run overnight with some citric acid, and it's gonna do the work for you. Let a little bit of water flow, set it on this lower setting, and it'll help eat away the core line. In the meantime, instead of waiting on that to clean the MP40s, I'm gonna go ahead and pull out my additional wet sides. It's always a good idea if you have MP40 pumps to have a couple extra wet sides on deck, so that way when you're doing your maintenance, you can easily swap them out and there's no delay or no downtime for the flow in your reef tank. So definitely a fantastic feature that will set these pumps apart from any others. We're being able to replace these wet sides. Now, this is the funny part. During the maintenance, I don't know what happened. This guy decided to try to, jump ship. Well, I don't think he was, but I've never seen a turbo snail this close to the edge of my tank. And this sucker is huge. I thought he was really going to try to get out, but he ended up busting a Yui and going back into the water. It was just really interesting seeing this thing outside the tank. Another bit of info. We are adding our first ever Australian stripey. Now, for those that know about this fish, you're well aware they have a reputation for eating aptasia, and I have been dealing with an aptasia infestation in the Be Easy Reef like no other, and I need something that's going to constantly want to eat them because they're in the sump, they're in the pipes, and no matter how much you try to, aptasia X or zap or kill or whatever you want to do, whatever aptasia is in your system is going to be in there forever. So you're going to need a constant predator to get rid of that pest. So I'm hoping adding this guy to the system is going to be able to get that job done for us. But we will find out, if the reputation is accurate or if this guy ends up being a dud. You guys know me. I will be documenting, watching this closely, and we will follow up on the new homie in the Be Easy Reef, the Australian stripey, here, the next month or so, and I will show you guys the results. So we're pretty much done. Let's let the tank clear up and let's check back to see the results. Man, I gotta tell you guys, it is so rewarding after you put, a few hours into your tank after months and months of not really having the time for it. And you see the results a few days later, tank looking amazing. I mean, glass is clear, water's clear, the corals are responding well. The only thing I do want to mention is the small lighting change I made. I'm still running the AI Blaze, but I changed the spectrum to more of a wider daytime look. So, to take advantage of using the leather corals and the soft corals in the system, not having as many fluorescents, I decided to go with more of a wider look. But unfortunately, with the gel filter, it makes it look yellow. So we're going to pull this thing off and we're going to see how the iPhone does with natural reef lighting. No gel filter for the rest of this video. You guys let me know down in the comments. That first clip, how did it look? Was it a little too yellowish? Was it a natural look as far as a reef tank? Or does it look better with no gel filter and the camera just kind of adjusting itself, white balance and doing its thing? So if it's no filter the way to go, I may adjust the lights even more, do it old school style and just no gel filter at all for the remainder of documenting this tank. So update on the wave makers, power heads, whatever you want to call them. The new wet sides definitely doing their thing. A major difference in flow. These things are pushing tons of water in the Be Easy Reef. I actually had to turn down the flow a little bit, considering I don't have any hard corals or SPS in here. I definitely want to make sure I'm not blowing too much water. And then also the AI Orbit 4 pump, definitely back up to par. That thing was clogged and not doing anything, but after cleaning it, it definitely is pushing water across the surface. I think a word of advice, if you can't see the nice blue, pedals inside the actual Orbit 4 pump, it's probably time to clean it. And I think that's going to be the rule I have going forward, because the water flow in the tank is definitely moving. If you guys know me, you know I love flow in my systems. So now we can move on to the new master plan in the Be Easy Reef. For those that have been following the tank over these last 42 episodes, you know I've made multiple attempts at making this a mixed reef, SPS, LPS, softies, everything in between. Well, with the failures of that, we have finally transitioned to the reality of what this tank is going to become. And that is going to be a softy dominated reef tank. Now, I say that not as a discouragement, not as a negative, but as a positive, because the more I've accepted the reality of what's about to happen, the more I've started to enjoy the beauty of keeping soft corals in a reef tank. The polyp extension on the different types of leather corals is definitely interesting to look at. The swaying, the movement, and just the fullness that you get with adding these to your reef tank, and the amount of coverage you get as far as your scape is definitely something I'm interested in. So just kind of giving you guys some close-ups at some of the differences between the pineapple leathers, the finger leathers, the devil's hands, and just the polyps and just the movement that these corals are able to display. I'm really digging the new idea that we're going to move forward with in the Be Easy Reef. Now, does that mean that it was a failure, or the idea I had before was a bad idea? I don't know. I can't really say that. I do feel like I made every attempt I could to have a successful mixed reef tank, but I'm going to just stick with the corals that want to actually live in this tank. Considering I had multiple SPS corals, multiple, LPS corals, hammers, torches, and everything else, it was always something that went wrong. So instead of continuing to throw money into the fire, we're going to invest in the things that want to live, like simple stuff, leathers, GSP, which is actually, plating out and growing onto the sand bed, which is wild, and just enjoying the reef tank. I'm at a point now in this tank's life that I've had my fun as far as experimenting, as far as trying different things and new things. But after setting back, I can see the direction that we need to go, and it's definitely going to be a softy dominated reef tank. So for those that are curious, that is going to be the new direction of the Be Easy Reef. What kind of soft corals we add, what kind of different things we're going to do is going to be revealed here in the near future. But as far as the corals we have in here, we're definitely going to do what we can to frag, remount, and repurpose the existing corals in the tank, especially with the speed that some of these easier corals grow in my system. I'll definitely be able to fill in this scape in no time as far as spreading these leathers, these pallies, these zoas, these mushrooms, and whatever else I have in the system already, and to help fill it in. Now, I'm definitely on the hunt for different types of soft corals that I don't currently have. Some cabbage corals, cabbage leathers, maybe some Fiji yellow toadstools, and whatever other type of soft corals I'm not aware of, I'm definitely on the hunt for, and we will be adding them to the Be Easy Reef. So that's not the only thing that we're going to be focusing on. The next thing is going to be making up for the lack of color or fluorescent in corals with an abundance of fish. So as you guys can see, I do have a pretty nice stock list in the system currently, but it's nowhere near the amount of fish that I do plan on adding to the system, especially without having the amount of sensitive corals. I really feel I'm going to be able to get away with the new master plan. So as we transition from daytime hours to nighttime hours, go ahead and pop the gel filter back on and enjoy some of the fluorescence that we do still have in the Be Easy Reef. I'm going to kind of lay out the new plan for you guys in a little more detail. And first being the stock list plans for the Be Easy Reef. We're going to have to replace some things, including some sand sifting fish or sand sifting starfish, conch snails, something that is going to help maintain the sand bed, because getting in here and siphoning the sand bed, every month or every couple of weeks is definitely not going to be something I know I'm not going to want to do that often. So I'm definitely going to add some critters to help maintain the sand bed. And as far as stock list, I'm really having the wild idea of adding some well-known, maybe hard coral, LPS picking type fish to help add colors in the form of multiple dwarf angels or any other kind of angelfish, butterfly fish, or any of those mid-sized, colorful swimmers that are now going to be able to work in the Be Easy Reef. So definitely tons of potential that I'm going to be able to do with the stock list going forward, and we're definitely going to take advantage of the lack of high-end corals in the system to pull that off. So, as we kind of look through the tank, it definitely has voids that we're going to have to fill, tons of aptasia that hopefully that Australian stripey takes care of, especially in the middle archway. But after all that's said and done, I think this tank is still looking pretty damn good. I mean, I'm really enjoying, sitting on the couch after a hard day's work and just enjoying the reef. I mean, what's in here is definitely thriving, growing, looking happy. And I think we can expand on that. We can frag, we can spread these corals around, we can add additional things. And as this tank continues to grow in, with the additional stocking that I plan on doing, I really feel like we're going to get to where we really want to be. So you guys can kind of let me know what your thoughts are. How do you feel about softy dominated reef tank? We're still going to introduce some Duncan corals. We're still going to introduce, some other easier to keep corals. But we're definitely going to stick to the script, definitely going to stick to what works. And we're definitely going to try to shoot for success for year 3 in the Be Easy Reef. So not saying I don't have success at the moment. For anyone new to the hobby or new to the channel, you may see this tank and be like, man, this tank is awesome. But, the potential that it had with the older stock list is something that I'll never forget. But it is something that we're going to move on from. So I'm hoping that you guys have enjoyed, this reef update, or the first real reef update of 2025 on the Be Easy Reef. And I'm really looking forward to the future goals, the future plans. I will be providing updates as far as the equipment, as far as changes that we're going to be doing, and as far as what worked and what didn't. The Australian stripey, is he a dud? Is he, as advertised? What else can we document? What else can we cover in year 3 of the Be Easy Reef? So we're gonna get ready to cut out of here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. You guys can like, comment, subscribe. You guys keep doing what y'all do. Y'all be easy and happy reefing. Peace.